What's going on, people? Back on a Sprinter game. Let me set up this flashlight someplace over here. So I have there's three things I want to talk about today in the video, actually before. I finally hit 531,000, almost 532,000 miles. So I put on 3,500 miles on this van. I went through quite a few tanks of fuel, and since the being is such a high mileage, so you guys see my previous video regarding ECM, modular, the whole entire thing. So the time to come up to, obviously I changed the oil and I needed to change the transmission fluid. So I drained it. It was really low on training fluid. I ended up draining whatever I had in it. It really looked really black. Thank God it didn't smell burn. So I did a research. I called the dealer. Dealer's like, oh, we're not sure how many gallons it takes, and everything they told me is like they flush it by some sort of computer thing. But he's like, the guy's like, I think it's like 5.5 or 5.3. So I went and bought this kind of oil in CarQuest. I'm a big fan of Valvoline for the training fluid. Seems like this German engineer, which is a Dutch, but they taken it. So that's the oil I bought, and I put it in 5.5 quarts. I literally, maybe a little bit more than 5.5 quarts, like 5.6 quarts. So I did not change the filter in it. I said, you know what? I just drain it. It looks really dirty. I will refill it, run it for 10,000 miles, drain it again, refill it, and then we'll see how it does. And if I'm going to keep this thing, I might pull the pan off of it, clean it out, and put a new filter in, and then refill it again. So it's let's call it 5.5 quarts of oil, training oil. It just, if you drain it and then just refill it back on. If you reinstalling transmission and the transmission is completely dry, like you drain the turbo converter and everything, it's 8.5 quarts. You actually can put 9. In my opinion, much as I know about the transmission, if you overfill the tranny, it's really not going to hurt much. Obviously, you don't fill it to the top. It's usually if you underfill it. But if you go with the 5.5, just a regular service, if you install a new transmission and it's completely dry, or used transmission and the turbo converter is drained, then you have to put not quite 9 quarts in it. So to refill the transmission, the reason it's so important how many quarts, because these effing things don't have a dipstick, but they have a dipstick tube, which you can go buy an aftermarket dipstick tube, dipstick over here. So that's your passenger side, towards you dipstick. Some of them have an elbow. I don't have all my plastics on it, but it's right there. So that's how you fill your transmission, as this little thing goes on. I looked into them. I believe they're like $80 for a dipstick kit. And I decided not to do it. I just put it in without a dipstick. Good enough. It runs fine. Obviously, I hook up my scanner tool to it and check to make sure nothing gets hot. So then I have a really whining noise. Sounds like a cat fighting underneath the hood. I was thinking it's alternator. Change the alternator. I was thinking it's power steering pump. Change the power steering pump. Let's stop at the power steering pump. What happened with the power steering pump? Really nothing. You have to break this pulley off the way you can get to this bolts, because it's absolutely impossible to get to them, and it's fairly tight. And when I did it from underneath the vehicle. But that's how old pump looks. And I bought one off Amazon. I believe it was like $80 or something like that with shipping and all. Then I'm like, well, it sounds like it's coming from a driver's side. So I looked, I listened, I checked all the pulleys, and I end up, I have a parts van, a buddy of mine own it, and I start rubbing a little bit of parts off of it. So I'm like, that's got to be a pump. And though I'm a really strong believer in Mercedes, which is a Bosch pump right there, it's not very common for them to go bad. They actually pretty solid. There's not much to them. So this pump provides at the full rev, right, little under 16,000 psi. Yeah, 16,000 psi of diesel fuel. So if you end up, it's only 3 bolts holding a pump. You have to pull your fan out, leave the shroud there because you can't pull a shroud, and it's pretty easy to get to it. It has this long gear, and You don't have to time it or nothing. So you just literally put it in and that's it. But this line right here, this is your supply. I believe this is return. And that's what it's come out of it. Do not prime these pumps. They literally, the Mercedes MLGL, they all using the same exact pump. And what happened is you have another pump in the tank, which I believe, don't quote me on that, I believe it's pushing 80 PSI into this high pressure pump. And make sure you put this line before you even start the engine, because it will squirt out of there very hard. If you look in the literature, like on my scan tool, it says to make sure this line is on when you prior to start the vehicle, because this can, if it shoots out of there, it'd be like a needle and it will literally penetrate in your skin. Do not put your finger over it. So you just put it on and pretty much just start over. Then when I change the pump, you might as well change all the rubber hoses go to it, because look, they start kind of breaking up. So I replaced it, and then come to find out I have a fuel leak. I smelled a fuel, so just now I replaced the lines. Don't have to go to Mercedes and buy them, just figure out what size they are and just pick this one. And there's one more return from a rail, and it goes to the filter. So I changed those. Like I said, if you have a problem with Sprinter or any kind of diesel Mercedes, don't run up and buy this pump, because it's fairly expensive unless you can get hands on and use one. Like, once again, they are not very common to go bad. The main thing for the fuel, on the fuel side of on this kind of type of vehicle, is the pump goes in the tank goes bad. So this thing kind of has a sluggish to starting, and I have a problem. I think it has a problem with the fuel pump in the tank. So don't replace this right away, because this is most expensive thing in the fuel system. If you buy Reman, I believe they're like $600 or $700. I mean, it depends what kind of quality they are. So this one has 530,000 miles. It's completely fine pump. So come to find out, the noise, I don't know if I said it, it actually comes from the AC compressor, because this is one of the AC compressors will always stays on, and it's really annoying. So I have to order the AC compressor, but no reason to change the pump. Then let's go inside and I'll show you what I accomplished. This thing really, I mean, there's nothing inside of it. So I end up buying this insulation and put it up on the ceiling. It's kind of expensive, but in Home Depot, it's not very thick. It's a self-adhesive. It's really sticky. I don't want to re-insulate the whole thing anywhere I can. I have to go buy a couple more rolls of it. And then I just bought the construction foam and fill in every way I can not put this insulation in. So it worked. Believe it or not, just this little bit already made it a lot more quieter. So that's the story of the day. A little bit of information for everybody. Some people asking me, like, you're not consistent in your videos. You're kind of recording random stuff. I am. Whatever I work on it, I record it. I hope this info helps somebody. I mean, somebody's watching it, but leave the comment below if you need more detail. But nowadays, it's really helpful to have internet on your hand. You can find just about anything. Thanks for watching all.